Thank you for this opportunity, and thanks, Harry, for at least acknowledging that what you're trying to do is tough. But I think what we felt, one thing before I start, I think is that it's been a great journey for us for the last 4.5 years. It's not been tough, it's been more fun. So we enjoy it, it's not as tough. So I think as I start, the first thing is I would obviously want to acknowledge my co-founder and friend. We've been friends for more than 15 years now. We studied together, and then 4.5 years ago we decided to start SWAS with the goal of improving the health of low-income households. So for people who don't know, SWAS is a Hindi word which means healthy. So SWAS India literally means healthy India. And our goal is to make people healthy and not necessarily make it a business to make them fall ill so that they come to our center. So that's the last thing we want to do. We want them to be healthy and actually not come to our center. That's our goal. As you see, the other thing I think to note is both of us are computer science graduates. We passed out from IIT Bombay. We did computer science, nothing to do with health. And after that we were in management consulting. Both of us, he was at KPMG, I was at McKinsey. I got introduced to healthcare there, but yeah, that was just the beginning. Just 3.5 years. So what we try and do hence is take a very engineer's view on healthcare as a system. So we think of it like a system, like a computer system, which has different parts, and how do we make these parts work? Because each of these parts work. It's not like India, there are no doctors or medicines are not there, the lowest cost drugs are made there in the world, labs are available, hospitals are available, at least in more than 50% of India right now, but still things don't work there. There are serious issues in the healthcare system. So that's why we take a very engineer's view. That's the background. Before we started, what we did was this. The first 3 years, it took us to just, I think, blueprint the thing out. So we went through a cycle where we did multiple projects across India with various NGOs and various partners, funders who helped us at that stage. We basically said as long as it was in healthcare and it had to do anything to do with health for low income, we'll try and do it. So if you see the range of activities range from running centers, primary care clinics, running a mobilization program for a government healthcare program, providing micro-insurance to 20,000 people in rural Maharashtra, insurance in urban Bangalore, just developing an IT system for healthcare to make sure that we can capture the data and use that data effectively. So we did all of this in the first 3 years, along with just random visits in villages, meeting people, which were the most interesting ones. We met the consumers, the patients, the doctors, government representatives, everyone, to just understand what's really happening on the ground. And the biggest learnings came from trying these things out, because when we went and talked to people, the story was very different. And then so we did research on insurance. Will you buy at 700 rupees? 90% people said yes. And when we started the program, our enrollment was less than 3% at the same time. So there's a huge, maybe our research methodology was not good, but I think there's something more than that. We weren't that bad either. So I think this learning process of 3 years was very, very helpful for us, which set sort of the ground for what we wanted to do, what we are doing now for the last 1.5 years now in Bombay. So before that, I think Bombay, we've got a good sense of, I'll skip this, but what that video, it's a little 2-minute long video, but do you want to see that video? It's about Bombay. Yeah? Okay. Does it play? So the idea of this video, as we go through it, is essentially it's trying to show the two sides of Bombay that exist today, and more importantly, it's a reflection of the two sides of India that exist at the same time, and which is essentially causing a big a big social gap or a social tension in the system right now between the two vastly different Indias that we have, which is divided between the high income and the low income.
Mumbai, India's most populous city, the financial capital of India, to one of the world's largest film industry, the city of skyscrapers, fast life, and a plethora of opportunities for everyone. This city has the potential to offer a higher living standard than any other part of the country.
Play, right? Go to 50.
Every morning at 6, Shantabai, a household. Mumbai, India's most populous city, the financial capital of India, home to one of the world's largest film industry. The city of skyscrapers, fast life, and a plethora of opportunities for everyone. This city has the potential to offer a higher living standard than any other part of the country. The city of dreams. Well, every morning at 6, Shantabai, a housemaid, travels a long distance to work, while Nathu opens his tea stall even before the crack of dawn. Uli Shahabuddin's days become nights while he carries the passengers' luggage. Ganesh cycles for miles to sell bread and eggs for his daily wage. Similarly, Ram Dayal Rikshawala, Mason Hari, Vada Pav seller Vishnu, and many more struggle every day to make ends meet. But in this fast-paced life, even one break can wreck their whole budget. Increasing expenses and struggle to gain basic living leaves them with no savings. They can't afford proper medical facilities. They face high-interest debts for medical emergencies. And one hospital visit can wipe out their yearly saving.
Yeah, we'll come to that. So yeah, this is essentially the dichotomy, right? So out of the 1.2 billion people in India, 400 million are people who have income, who have access to facilities. 800 million are the people who are the kinds of people you saw, right? Who are either driving a rickshaw, making tea, working as a housemaid, who are very vulnerable. And the biggest vulnerability right now is health. In fact, the statistic which got us going and which keeps us going is that every year in India, 32 million people every year go from above poverty line to below poverty line. And the single reason is health shocks. This is due to health shocks. The rest is about 8 million which are due to other reasons. But the bulk of it is just due to a health event which happened in a family and they couldn't manage it correctly in time. So that's the magnitude of the problem. This 32 million perspective-wise is the BPL population is 200 million. The official BPL population, which works on a number like $2 per day. So people who earn less than $2 per day, there are 200 million such people, and we are adding 32 million to that every year. And the reason is health. So that's the reason, sort of so that's something which tells us something is wrong in the system. When there are doctors, there is medicine, everything is available, then why is this happening? It's a system which is broken. To talk a little bit more about, specifically about the urban challenge, which is what we are working on more right now, focused on it, and the reason we chose that over the rural to some extent, is that firstly urbanization is increasing in India. There is huge migration from rural to urban. The infrastructure is not at all keeping pace with it. And the fact is, again, Bombay, the total population of Bombay is now 30 million, out of which more than 54% people live in slums. So they don't have formal proper housing. They are living in slums, the kinds we saw in the picture. And by the way, Dharavi is no longer the biggest slum; it's the 4th largest slum in Bombay. There are 3 more larger slums, and Dharavi is an old story. That's the rate at which they are growing now, and we are talking of 16 million people living in these conditions. The burden of disease, what happens in urban, it gets more complex, right? Because the living conditions are worse, right? So they are living where they don't have access to good water, air pollution is high, so very, very unsanitary conditions, not proper access to toilets. In addition to that, the high stress is getting added to that, right? Which is they are sleeping less, they travel more, there is more worry, the insecurity is higher, they don't even have a home. In rural at least they have a home. Here they don't even have a home. They're eating worse, they eat street food, what they can eat, very fast food, the cheapest available. So in these situations, the situation of health is much worse, and that shows in statistics. We'll see almost more than 30%, the incidence is 30 to 40% higher than rural. And this is again government statistics. So the situation is really worse. In urban now, when we come to it, the difference between the rich and poor is again very stark. The rich have access to the best facilities. Like people from UK are going to India to get their knee operated now, right? So that's the quality of infrastructure that is existing, and that is available, but that is available to the richest. While the poor have really bad infrastructure, the public health infrastructure doesn't exist, and as a result, their health indicators are worse. And of course, as I said, the infrastructure, particularly from the government, doesn't exist. The government has focused on the rural side because that's the most asked question. Do we have access? Are we setting up hospitals in rural? But in urban, they tend to ignore. Mostly they ignore primary care, primary and preventive care. So they are not primary care. They leave it to the private cares because they think there are enough doctors. So what's happening as a result of that? There is very high degree of exploitation by the private providers when they come to these locations. So for example, one way is that all the expenditure is out of pocket, right? There is no insurance. So everyone is paying then and there. So we asked one of the doctors, how do you decide how much to charge a patient? Because there is no rate list. It's not printed anywhere. He says, usually he knows the patient from far, so he knows what's his affordability like. Does he have a salary or fixed income? Is he a driver or he's a daily wage guy? So we adjust accordingly. Sometimes when usually women come, they carry money in their fist like this because they don't carry a purse. So the doctor sees the money that they're carrying and accordingly decides how much to charge them. So it's that kind of a situation that we're talking of in what's happening really now. So I think given these, we said let's focus on urban. We found few players who focus on urban. Even rural, there are no organized players, but at least the government is trying to do things. They're adding infrastructure there. Urban is ignored.